You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. From my experience, this verse is sometimes looked at out of context, specifically out of context from the world that Jesus taught and lived in. I've often heard this verse discussed in a way that suggests Christians should just lie down and allow ourselves to be walked over, that it is better for us to allow ourselves to be abused or taken advantage of than it is to stand up against the wrong that someone is doing. But I don't think this is quite the world that Jesus is trying to paint for us. In his Sermon on the Mount, which these verses come out of, Jesus is painting a picture to his disciples of a way to live which brings about the kingdom of God. In these verses specifically, Jesus is showing us how to relate to those around us. Jesus is aware that the world we live in contains brokenness. Sinful injustices thrive from brokenness. This section is Jesus teaching his disciples how to live righteously in a world that contains social injustices. The importance of this topic is not new, or at least it shouldn't be new to Jesus' disciples. Throughout the last devotional series on the Minor Prophets, we continuously came across the theme of justice. One of God's repetitive complaints against the Israelites was their failure to maintain justice. The prophet Micah said, God has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Jesus takes this old message of the importance of justice and makes it new again. God values justice. God is just. So why would Jesus tell his disciples to accept injustice? It doesn't fit within the context of Jesus' teaching, so there must be something more he is trying to tell us. If someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. In Jewish culture at the time, each hand was used for a different purpose. The left hand was used for mostly unclean tasks, such as wiping after using the restroom. It was not used for human interaction. The right hand is what was used for interacting with people, and it was the right hand that was used for hitting someone. If you hit someone with the palm of your hand or with your fist, then you hit them as an equal. But if you backhanded someone, you hit them as someone lesser than you. The only way to properly hit someone on the right cheek with your right hand was to backhand them. This means that you are striking them as someone lesser than you. When Jesus says to turn to them the other cheek also, you are turning to them your left cheek. If they want to continue beating you at that point, it forces them to hit you with the palm of their hand or with the fist. They would then be hitting you as an equal. If someone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. The general fashion of the time was a tunic that worked as a shirt and a cloak that was a garment to keep you warm. In Jewish culture at the time, if someone owed you money and couldn't pay you back, you had the right to sue them and take the tunic. But you had to leave their cloak so that they would stay warm and so that they wouldn't be naked. Now, nakedness in that culture worked a little differently than nakedness does in our culture today. Today, if someone sees me naked, then the shame is on me, for I have been seen naked. I have been seen in a very intimate form. In Jesus' culture, the role was reversed. If someone sees me naked, then the shame is on them for seeing me that way. When I am sued for my tunic because I have no other means to pay back my debtor, it means that my debtor is requesting more from me, knowing that I have nothing to give them except for the little shirt off of my back. Jesus says, well then give them what they ask for, and give them more. They understand that you have no resources. They understand the position that you are in, and yet they ask for more. Give it to them, and they will see you naked. They will see you in your intimate moments, and it will bring shame upon them and remind them of the injustice that they are causing. It should break their heart. It should cut them to the core and help them realize that what they are doing is unjust. It should remind them to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. If someone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. At that time, Roman soldiers had the right to force any Jew to carry their gear for them. If that Jew refused, that Jew was then in trouble with Roman law. This was one of the ways that the Romans reminded the Jews who was in charge. The Romans were powerful, and the Jews were powerless. But Roman soldiers were limited to forcing a Jew to carry their gear for 1 mile. If a soldier forced a Jew to carry their gear further than that, that soldier was now at risk for getting reprimanded by his officers. Going a 2nd mile reverses the power structure. The powerful Roman soldier now becomes powerless because the one he is forcing to do work has done more than he is allowed to do. Through these examples, Jesus is trying to teach his disciples how to peacefully point out injustice. As Christians, we should not be okay with injustice. We should not be okay with the powerful taking advantage of the powerless. It breaks God's heart to see God's children abusing and taking advantage of one another. If injustice doesn't break our hearts too, then we need to start reconnecting with God because we might not be as close to God as we thought we were. Pointing out injustice is just the first step. A purely passive and reactive approach to injustice is not enough. We cannot sit back and wait for other people to do something about injustice. It is our job as Christians, our job as reflections of God, to refuse to accept injustice. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. To be a reflection of Jesus is to reject injustice and to help those in need. All throughout Jesus' ministry, he healed lepers, he fed the hungry, he healed the sick, he forgave those who messed up. Jesus did not turn away from the results of injustice. Jesus acted. He did not see the brokenness of injustice and simply walk by. Jesus saw it and was compelled to help heal it. Jesus' old new way teaches us how to act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. If we call ourselves Christians, if we call ourselves followers and examples of Jesus, then we cannot be okay with injustice.